I still remember the smell of the lasagna burning in the oven. It was our anniversary, 12 years, 2 kids, one mortgage, and a mountain of memories built on what I thought was solid ground. I came home early that day. Big mistake. I should have gone bowling, taken a walk, maybe gotten stuck in traffic. Anything but come home early. The house was too quiet. No music. No cartoon chaos on the TV. Just silence. A kind of silence that hums in your ears and clutches your ribs. I called her name. No answer. So, I followed the trail like a crime scene detective with no badge and too much hope. The kids weren't home. Thank God for that. Her car was in the driveway, but she wasn't in the kitchen. Wasn't in the living room. Wasn't folding laundry or checking emails or doing any of the usual things she'd do when I walked in on a regular Tuesday. And this day was anything but regular. The bedroom door was ajar. Always is when the kids aren't around. But this time, there was a shadow too, in fact. Moving. I don't need to tell you what I found. You've already guessed. You've probably seen it in movies, maybe heard the stories whispered at backyard barbecues when someone says, "Did you hear about what happened to Steve?" Yeah, that was me now. I was Steve. I didn't shout. Didn't throw anything. I just stood there, still as concrete, as if I didn't move, none of it would be real. But the sweat on her skin wasn't mine. The voice that said, "Who the hell is that?" wasn't familiar. The look she gave me, it wasn't shame. It was inconvenience. Like I'd walked in on her doing taxes. "I didn't expect you home so soon," she said, pulling the sheet up like modesty mattered now. And just like that, 12 years turned into dust. Her lover, some forgettable man-boy who looked like he sold bad crypto, scrambled out of bed like he was late for brunch. He didn't look at me. He couldn't. I stood there, not as her husband anymore, but as a guy in a living room who forgot his keys and walked into the wrong house. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't even apologize. She just shrugged. "I need to find myself," she said. And let me tell you, the only thing she seemed to be finding was the zipper on that guy's jeans. I walked out without saying a word. Not because I was weak, but because I knew a storm was building, and when it landed, it wouldn't be loud. It would be cold, surgical, and final. And this was just the beginning. After the sheet snatched scandal and the grand declaration of finding herself, you'd think she might have packed a bag, maybe cried a little, or even had the decency to disappear. But no, she stayed the night. In our house. Apparently, spiritual journeys of self-discovery now begin by raiding the fridge for leftover cheesecake and ignoring the husband you just emotionally kneecapped. She sat at the kitchen table like she was waiting for a dinner guest, not the fallout of a destroyed marriage. And me? I slept in the garage. Not because I had to, but because that concrete floor felt more honest than the memory foam mattress we once bought together during a holiday sale. That night, I stared at the ceiling, surrounded by tools I never used and bikes the kids had outgrown. I thought about the past few months, the gym membership, the extra perfume, the random mood swings that weren't tied to anything I could understand. She'd been drifting, but I thought we were just in a slump. Happens, right? Marriage isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's just two people trying to remember why they signed the lease on forever. Turns out, she was already subletting her heart to someone else. The next morning, she was gone. Not forever. Just to clear her head. No note. No breakfast. Just the faint scent of that new body spray she'd picked up on a whim. I hated how good it smelled. That scent would haunt me for months. The kids asked where Mommy went. I told them she needed a break. They nodded. Kids believe anything if you say it calmly enough. One of them went back to watching cartoons. The other asked if she'd bring back souvenirs. And me? I played house. Cleaned the kitchen. Took out the trash. Set the table for 3 instead of 4. She called that night from a number I didn't recognize. Probably a burner phone. Cheaters love burner phones, don't they? Makes betrayal feel more sophisticated, like a covert mission instead of a personal car crash. "I'm not happy," she said. "I haven't been for a long time." I almost asked why she didn't say something. But the truth? I already knew the answer. She didn't want to fix it. She wanted out. She wanted new. She wanted wild. She wanted to feel 17 again while being 35 with 2 kids and a husband who folded laundry and paid bills on time. And I was supposed to just understand. She ended the call with, "Maybe this is just a phase. Maybe I'll come back when I know who I am." Phase? That word sat in my throat like broken glass. She didn't want a man. She wanted a reset button. And I wasn't a man anymore, not in her eyes. I was a cautionary tale with a wedding ring. And still, I waited. For what? I didn't know. A change of heart? A miracle? Or maybe, deep down, I just wanted to see how this story would end. It was a Thursday. I remember that because it was trash day, and I was dragging the bins to the curb when she texted me. Can we meet for dinner? Just talk. No pressure. I should have smelled the trap right then. But hey, after 2 weeks of radio silence, a man starts mistaking breadcrumbs for a meal. I cleaned up, threw on the blue button-up she used to say brought out my eyes, and headed to the address she texted. A new restaurant. Candlelight. Exposed brick. One of those places where they charge you for the ambience. I thought maybe she wanted to talk about the kids. Maybe a path back. Maybe forgiveness. Hope is a stubborn idiot. She was already there when I arrived. And she wasn't alone. Enter Chase. Yep, that was his name. Looked like he ironed his abs. Hair slicked back, shirt 2 sizes too small, like his personality needed a gym membership too. He gave me a smile that said, I've already won, and my wife, ex? Not yet. Sat beside him, laughing like she was auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. I sat down anyway. Logan, she said, too brightly. This is Chase. You've heard me mention him. Oh, I'd heard about Chase. The work friend. The mentor. The guy who gets her. The red flag I'd politely ignored because I still believed in vows. He leaned forward, calm as a snake sunbathing on a rock. I'll make this simple, he said. You've got 2 options, Logan. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. Ashley didn't flinch. She smiled. Like this was a formality, not a funeral. I smiled too. Your teeth, I said, voice flat. You want them whole or in pieces? And then I stood. I didn't flip the table. I used it. Plates shattered. Wine flew. His face made contact with a soup spoon in the marble floor in record time. People screamed. Chase whimpered. Ashley grabbed my arm. Logan, stop. You're embarrassing me. Embarrassing her. After she'd ambushed me with her boyfriend like I was the free bread before the entrees. Security dragged me out. Blood on my shirt. Glass in my knuckles. Dignity, surprisingly intact. Outside, I stared at the restaurant door, still hearing his smug voice, her empty smile. And that's when the weight of it hit me. This wasn't the beginning of the affair. It was the ending. A curtain call on something they'd rehearsed for months. Maybe longer. I wasn't the main character in my own life. I was the plot twist no one asked for. But I didn't break that night. I woke up. I went home, hands still sore, head buzzing like a kick beehive. The house felt wrong. Not messy. Just off. Her perfume was still in the hallway. But there was a second scent. Something musky. Arrogant. The bed was made. Too perfectly. Like a hotel. Ashley never made the bed like that. That's when I knew. Not suspected. Knew. I wasn't looking for the truth anymore. I was looking for proof. And when I found it, oh, buddy, it cut sharper than any punch I'd thrown that night. I used to think the worst kind of pain was heartbreak. Turns out, it's humiliation. See, when a heart breaks, it cracks slow. It gives you warning. You feel the pressure building. But humiliation? That thing drops like a piano out of a 4th-story window, fast, loud, and public. That night, after the brawl at the restaurant, I came home with a busted lip and bruised pride. My fists were still buzzing. The adrenaline was burning off, and in its place was this eerie calm. You know the kind. That deep, cold quiet that shows up right before a man makes a permanent decision. I walked into the bedroom, took one look at the bed, and froze. It was too perfect. Ashley never made the bed like that. She was a pull the covers up and call it a day kind of woman. But this? This was military corners. Hotel standard. Crisp. Cold. Untouched. Except it had been touched. I sat down on the edge of the mattress like it might tell me a story. And it did, just not in words. The scent hit me again. Her perfume, and someone else's. Cheap cologne and overcompensation. I stood up and headed for the closet. Now, I wasn't Sherlock Holmes. I wasn't even a guy who peeked into her purse. But something in me snapped that night. The gloves were off. The mask had dropped. I wasn't here to protect my dignity anymore. I was here to exhume the corpse of our marriage and figure out what killed it. First stop, the shoe rack. There, tucked neatly behind the boots she never wore, were a pair of red heels. Brand new. Expensive. Definitely not from Target. Now, here's the kicker. Ashley hadn't worn heels around me in almost a year. Said they hurt her back. Said comfort was the new sexy. Guess Chase changed her mind. I turned to the vanity next. Her tablet was right there, open, unlocked. She always said trust was the foundation of love. I tapped the screen, and opened the gallery. The first photo nearly knocked the air out of me. It was her, barely dressed, posing in a mirror in a hotel room I didn't recognize. The timestamp? Last weekend. The same weekend she told me she was at Lacey's baby shower in Sacramento. Sweet, innocent Lacey, who now owed me a very awkward phone call. I swiped again. There he was. Chase. Shirtless, brushing his teeth in the background like he owned the place. Like he'd been living in a life I paid for. There were videos, messages, voice notes. His deep, fake suave voice calling her my little secret. Her giggling like she was 17 again and no one had to pick up the kids at 3:15. Then came the one that really dug in. He still thinks we're just in a rough patch. She laughed after saying it. Laughed. Poor baby. Poor baby. I sat there for a long time, just staring at that line. That wasn't disappointment. That wasn't a slip. That was calculated. That was cruel. She knew exactly what she was doing. Every eye roll at dinner. Every I'm working late. Every fake smile during Sunday brunches while I bragged about how strong our marriage was. She was mocking me. That's the part that gets most people wrong about betrayal. It's not the act itself, it's the intent. It's knowing someone chose to treat you like a joke. Like you were too stupid, too soft, too loyal to notice. And for a while I was. Until now. She came home the next morning like nothing had happened. Hair in a bun. Coffee in hand. Wearing one of my old shirts. Like the villain in a movie trying to slip back into the hero's costume. I was sitting at the dining table, the tablet open in front of me. Photos on full display. She looked up from her phone and caught my eye. What? She asked, blinking. I said nothing. Just slid the tablet toward her. She stopped mid-step. Her fingers curled. She stared at the screen for a full 5 seconds before she looked at me. Why were you snooping through my stuff? That was her defense. Not I'm sorry. Not let me explain. Just that smug, deflective tone she always used when she got pulled over and tried to charm her way out of a ticket. I leaned forward. You lied to me. You made a fool out of me. You brought him into our lives like it was casual, and you humiliated me in public. You've been living a second life, and now you're mad that I found the key to the door. She shrugged. You've been boring for a long time, Logan. You stopped trying. I needed someone who made me feel something. I nodded. Calm. Too calm. And this is who you picked? A walking protein shake with a trust fund and a spray tan. She smirked. At least he listens. Oh, I listened all right. To every word she ever said. To every promise. Every lie dressed as kindness. That was the moment I realized something. She hadn't fallen out of love with me. She'd never really been in it. She loved the life I built. The stability. The comfort. The image. But once the fireworks faded, she didn't want the man. She wanted the thrill. I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and started packing. She followed me down the hall. You're just going to leave? I zipped the duffel bag without a word. You already left, I said. You just didn't have the guts to admit it. As I passed her, she muttered something under her breath. I stopped. What? She looked me dead in the eyes. No remorse. No shame. You were never man enough for me. And that was the last line she ever got. I didn't flinch. Didn't fire back. I just walked out of the house I once called home. Bag on my shoulder, silence in my bones, and revenge slowly warming up in the distance like an engine in neutral. Because this wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. There's a strange sort of peace that comes after your whole world detonates. Not relief. Not clarity. More like the quiet you get when the storm has moved on, but left the wreckage behind. I moved into a short-term rental. 4 walls. No memories. No fake smiles staring back at me from family photos. Just white paint. An ancient couch that sagged like a confession, and silence. God, the silence. The first night, I sat on the edge of that sad excuse for a bed and stared at the ceiling. Couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. Laughing at dinner. Tapping her phone with that half-smile. Whispering secrets to a man who wore cologne like he was allergic to subtlety. The silence wasn't empty. It was crowded. Every lie she told had a seat at the table. Every text message, every fake work trip, every "I'm just tired" excuse sat around me like ghosts in a room that used to be mine. I didn't eat much. Didn't drink either. Not out of principle, just didn't care. You know what's funny? You think when betrayal hits, you'll rage. Flip tables. Smash mirrors. Set something on fire. But no. I just sat there. Still. Because deep down, part of me had already known. I just refused to admit it. The night she rolled over like I was a stranger. the sudden gym obsession, the locked phone, the girls' nights that always ended with her smelling like a department store cologne display. I wasn't stupid. I was just in love. And love makes a man blind, deaf, and politely delusional. So instead of wallowing, I started remembering, reconstructing the timeline. Every business trip, every unexplained charge, every time she'd come home wearing heels and a glow that wasn't for me. And then I started documenting. I pulled out my laptop, opened a spreadsheet, and labeled it something ironic: self-discovery expenses. Each tab was a month. Each row? A red flag I had once ignored. Receipts, photos, hotel bookings, emails she forgot to delete, voice memos from my phone, little things I'd recorded over the years thinking they were sweet. No, they were evidence. See, Ashley thought she was playing a game of seduction and escape. But I don't play games. I play chess. And I never move without thinking 5 steps ahead. Meanwhile, she kept texting. Little messages, like she was checking if I was still circling her orbit. I hope you're okay. I still care about you, Logan. This is hard for me too. Hard? For her? Hard as watching your life catch fire while the arsonist tries to hug you. I didn't respond. I just read each message and archived it, along with everything else. Then came the Instagram photos. At first, it was subtle. Just a hand in a wine glass photo. Then a shoulder in a beach pic. Then a full shot of her and Chase. Matching watches. Matching smiles. That new couple glow that looks a lot like selective memory and filtered lighting. She'd found herself, all right, in a mirror held up by a man who probably couldn't spell commitment. I watched it all, quietly, like a man sharpening a knife in a locked shed. But the world, in its poetic timing, started doing what it always does. Turning. 3 weeks after she left me, I got a call. Blocked number. I answered out of curiosity. A woman's voice on the other end. Nervous. Breathless. Logan? You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. Her name was Vanessa. Chase's ex. Well, technically still his girlfriend, depending on how you define betrayal. She'd found my number on one of his old email threads. She was trying to find out how long the overlap was. Turns out, he had been lying too. To her. To Ashley. To everyone. She told me everything. How Chase had been seeing multiple women. How Ashley wasn't the first lost soul he'd rescued with wine and rehearsed vulnerability. How he had a reputation in their company for being a mentor, in the same way a shark mentors a seal. I listened. Took notes. Thanked her. Then I opened a new folder on my laptop and titled it Exit Strategy. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I smiled. Because the house of cards my wife built on charm and deception, it was shaking. And I was about to flick the table. But I wasn't going to do it in anger. That's what everyone expects. The bitter husband. The screaming match. The throne plates. No. I wanted precision. I wanted impact. So I made a plan. First, I called our financial advisor. Asked him to walk me through every account she had access to. Every credit card. Every insurance policy. Then, I called a lawyer. Not a cheap one. A very expensive, very bored one who loved a challenge and had a vendetta against liars. And then, I waited. Because when you let someone walk away thinking they won, they get careless. They flaunt. They overshare. They forget that while they're out chasing feelings, you're back home loading the filing cabinet. And buddy, I was locked and loaded. Ashley came back on a rainy Tuesday, 3 months to the day since she walked out to find herself. I remember because it was the same day I signed the final draft of the asset separation agreement. I had just sent the email to my lawyer when I heard a knock on the door. There she was, hair wet, makeup smudged, holding a suitcase like a stray who'd lost her way and hoped I still had a porch light on. I made a mistake, she said. I didn't say a word, just leaned against the doorframe and waited for the show. He wasn't who I thought he was. He lied to me. He used me, she continued, voice shaking like she wanted sympathy from the man she left bleeding. And me? I asked. Was I who you thought I was? That caught her off guard. I thought I needed more. But I was wrong, she whispered. No apology. Just regret wrapped in nostalgia. I want to come home, she said. She actually said that. Like the house she burned down was still standing. I looked her in the eyes, calm as ever. You already did, I said, stepping back and closing the door. The lock clicked. The rain kept falling. She knocked again. And again. Then she yelled. Then she cried. But the door didn't open. Not that day. Not ever. A week after the doorstep drama, I came home to find a small note taped to the front door. Please, let me see the kids. They don't answer my calls. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because when she left, she didn't just lose me. She lost them. Turns out, children aren't dumb. They saw what she did, felt the absence, heard the whispers, and saw the photos. Kids might not understand adult betrayal, but they sure as hell know when someone chooses someone else over them. They stopped asking about her after the first month. By the third, they referred to her as Mom in past tense. She showed up outside their school once. My daughter didn't recognize her at first. When she did, she turned away like she was looking at a stranger. That broke something in Ashley. I saw it in her eyes when she followed me back to my car. They don't remember me, she whispered. I nodded. Memory's a funny thing. It tends to protect itself from pain. She begged. I listened. But I didn't bend. Because what she destroyed wasn't just a marriage, it was a legacy. And some damage doesn't get visitation rights. Word spreads. First quietly. Then all at once. Chase got demoted. Vanessa, the scorned ex, shared screenshots with HR. Turns out, Ashley wasn't the first coworker he'd mentored. And corporate? They don't like lawsuits. Ashley resigned before they could push her out. The same people who once toasted her bravery for leaving a cold marriage now avoided eye contact in the parking lot. Her friend circle? Gone. Turns out, wine nights and girl boss affirmations are fun until the Instagram feed dries up and nobody wants to babysit your mess. She texted me once. I have no one. I didn't reply. She made sure I knew what it felt like to be alone. I figured she should sit with that for a while. It was almost a year to the day. The grass in the backyard was green again. The house didn't echo anymore when we laughed. My son asked, casually, Dad, are you ever going to get married again? I smiled. Maybe. But I don't think I'll ever need to. He nodded like he understood. Like maybe love didn't have to be blind, loud, or dramatic. Ashley emailed me that night. I heard you're doing well. I hope you're happy. I marked it as read and archived it. That's what she had become. An archived chapter. When I no longer needed to read again. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. I never touched a cent of revenge money. Never ruined her professionally. Never blasted her story online. Never torched her car or exposed her photos. I didn't have to. I let her live with the consequences of her choices. She thought she was choosing freedom, adventure, passion. What she chose was loneliness. What she got was silence. What I got was peace. And that's the cruelest revenge of all. Because nothing hurts a narcissist more than realizing you don't miss them. That they didn't break you. That their betrayal wasn't your ending. It was your beginning.